Dragonflight is World of Warcraft as you love it. Well, at least as we love it, okay?
It has to be.
We're judging this expansion right now, and yes, we are judging the expansion right now for its first couple of days. It's not a review. This is not like forecasting what we will feel about Dragonflight in 2 years from now. No, this is the, let's say, vibe and energy and enjoyment we had in the last couple of days based on all of the activities, questing, stories, and...
Oh yeah, man, like first impressions are really important, even if they will not, be the overall feeling of the expansion, and we can definitely, and we will, contrast the first impressions of Dragonflight with the first impression of Shadowlands.
and BFA.
And BFA as well, I guess, but it is a different beast, and you might say that, we've had alpha access since, what, week 2, I think? Or week 1?
Very early.
Very early access. And although I did quest at least the majority of the Dragonflight, I did not get to see most of the cutscenes because they weren't implemented. Definitely no voiceovers.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely intentionally skipped a lot of the quest texts because I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna get the full experience, I might as well just get it over with. So it was kind of fresh, although I kind of knew the overarching plot. It managed to surprise me so much.
Yes, because once you get to leveling and start paying a little bit of attention to the quests and the stories and whatnot, you're gonna see that there's a lot of stories within stories, especially if you go into doing like the side quests and stuff. Obviously, you can go for the main story or whatever, but it's such a huge loss if you not go to the side ones, because there's like so many of them that are funny or interesting and with interesting characters and stuff. It's like, for me, it was like never before seen in WoW, not to this extent anyways. I mean, I always hold high Warlords of Draenor for its questing and the stories, of course, and whatnot. Warlords of Draenor was a little bit short in my eyes, as opposed to how I'm feeling and discovering Dragonflight right now. It's not to the same quality or immersion or adventure or hype that I was in Warlords for questing, but it's definitely a lot richer, a lot more stuff to find, to discover.
Yeah.
And that's from like the actual zones and all of that. I have so many ideas right now.
Dude, I've compared the questing because I was always a big fan of questing. That's what WoW was for me at the beginning before I actually ended up in Endgame. And although I haven't played through Wrath, I can definitely agree that Wrath probably had one of the best questing experiences as well in terms of the overall story, lore, plot, and characters involved. But I still believe that Warlords of Draenor had the best questing design, with Legion very close after, just because the Legion invoked so many strong lore stories, characters, themes. You had Malfurion, you had Illidan, you had the Burning Legion, you had
a lot of poster boys.
Yeah, so because it managed to outpace that, at least for me, this is definitely, without shadow of a doubt, in my mind, the best questing experience that they have created. Not to mention that after Shadowlands, after being being very cynical and being very, I just didn't care anymore about the story after the Shadowlands, and I was like, I went kind of like a blank page in Dragonflight. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any hopes or anything. It's like one quest after another kind of pulled me more and more, and I haven't finished a whole zone in all of the questing in years. I don't think even in Legion and WoD did I ever finish all of the quests. So not because it was necessarily huge, it was I wanted to.
Yeah, that's a whole different story, man. And you were referencing Wrath of the Lich King. So yeah, at its time, Wrath of the Lich King was indeed super nice, like with the leveling and the whole stories in between. But if you compare it now, if you like go back and play it again now, it doesn't hold the same ground. You have to remember like the impact back then was way different. Because prior to Wrath, we didn't really have like super nice stories to follow through that made sense, and being connected with the world and stuff. But yeah, I kind of agree. So Dragonflight so far, when it comes to like the questing experience paired up with the stories and how it all makes sense, and they get connected with the world and the characters, it's one of the best. Still need to finish it. So
I feel like they're doing something with questing that definitely they haven't done in Shadowlands, and I don't know if they've ever done this before. If you really go into a zone, let's say you go, you get into Valdrakken, right? And you meet the aspects there, and you take the questing from them, you take the main storyline, and then other aspects have other quests where it's like, okay, this big NPC still has another quest that's not part of the campaign, and it actually goes deeper into the story, explaining what's going on. So normally you would probably see this in books, or maybe in cinematics, because the story in the campaign is pretty straightforward. We need to stop Razagath, and you know, she does this, we stop that. She wants to do this, we stop her there, and so on and so forth. But the side quests are when you actually go. Like, I don't want to. I'm not gonna spoil. But let's say in Azure Span, the NPC that everybody's gonna be super hyped about, you won't know about her until you actually do her side quests, and you get to know the connections that she built with the major lore characters from 10,000 years ago. And I think that is what we need if the lore of an expansion is going to be in any way relevant for us, in us to be able to, you know, assess the value of an expansion. Not put it into books, not put it into short stories on the website, not put into external sources of story, but put it into the game, because that makes me a person that just wanted normally to go to max level and just do the dungeons. I want to find out what's going on. I read the books, I found the little pieces of paper on the wall that I didn't need to click, and I was like, oh, so this is what happened. And you guys have seen it on our stream. I was losing my shit with all of the stuff that I could find. I was like, I wanted more. I was like, oh no, they're not giving more, they're sending me to do whatever that guy wants me to do, but I want to find out more about what's going on. I never had this feeling ever in WoW.
Yeah, man. Enough with the lore already, okay? Let me just tell you something. I could not help but feel rejoiced, re-energized, and excited once I leveled up, because I got to put talent points. And that feeling is like, dude, it gave me access to more and more power while leveling. This has not been the case for so long, and it's so good. I didn't even know, dude, I didn't even know. So I was like level 64 or something, and then I realized, dude, I have talents to spend. That was such an amazing feeling. It's like, oh my god, I know I'm missing, you know, Blade Spirit to hit more than 5 targets. I'm missing Fan the Hammer. Let me put those in. And then I started to pull like 5 and 6 mobs on me and do all of that. That feeling is so amazing, and they managed to capture that. And this is because of the quote-unquote revamped talent system, but that revamped talent system is super beneficial for the leveling experience as well. Okay, lore and story, it's all fine, but once you can have the best stories and the best characters possible, if the feeling, the gameplay is not there, it's gonna feel shallow. And this was the case with BFA, this was the case with Shadowlands.
Was the case with Legion also, I think.
I think in some capacity.
Wasn't WoD the last time we got like a new talent row, even if it was like just one of 3?
In WoD there was the abilities you had, like when you went to different zones, and every zone had new abilities. That was pretty cool as well. But this time around, it's all tied into your character, and I think it's much more personal. Now, when you're talking about Legion, yeah, Legion had a lot of poster boys to base their hype upon. When you're talking about BFA, story was interesting in some capacities for both Horde and Alliance. I didn't feel it was like super interesting as a whole. Shadowlands, so the vibe with Shadowlands was, although we were excited for Shadowlands, we loved the leveling experience and questing, and the gameplay felt interesting there as well. However, I cannot not remember the fact that it all felt strange. It felt not connected. Yeah, it felt you didn't belong. Yeah, as opposed to here, when the first time you go into the centers on the Onaran plains, and you because I went with the caravan, I just sat there and heard the stories.
No, that's so cool.
Yeah, I just sat there and listened to the stories and just looked around. Oh my god, the view, the surroundings, it feels so much, more natural and more fantasy than ever before. And I am super happy that they went back to this quote-unquote classic fantasy. And also, when you get the first dragon riding mount and you sit down with the dwarf dragon.
Did you do that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, the view was insane, man. I mean, I could never think or that World of Warcraft would be able to pose such a great view, even with the cartoony style.
You know what the fun that the view is also cool. I obviously also did it for the story because I wanted to stay a while and listen. It's like, okay, what do you have for me?
Yeah.
And that dwarf started to talk about the story of him and.
Don't spoil it.
Oh, you haven't done it?
No. Don't spoil it for people who didn't do it.
All right. So he talks about a story in his past with a person, or a dragon that they were close to, and the tribulations that they went through, and what happened to them in the end. And that story had more emotional impact than the entire Shadowlands.
And it's an NPC, like random
and I was,
dude.
and the chat was like, just skip it because it's way too long. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna listen. It's like I stood there. It's like, oh.
Ooh. Yeah. Let me tell you something else. So I know a lot of people hyped Dragon Riding before the expansion launched, and I remember vividly when we first talked about Dragon Riding, us too, when they announced, after the announcement, there was a lot of voices that were very skeptical regarding how Dragon Riding will evolve and unlock during leveling and so on. I think the biggest concern was, oh sure, this is gonna be behind super giga gates, having to do this, that, and the other. Well, let me tell you, because of Dragon Riding, I am like super enticed to do every world event content I'm going for a quest on my dragon and then I see, oh, that's a mining node over there. Let me just drop off and get some. Oh, by the way, speaking of I took mining and blacksmithing. Don't ask why, I did it. But this is the coolest thing they did with mining. There's secret zones in the mountains where only miners have access to. You can like dig it up. And there you have like spots
so
of
cool.
Yeah, man, that was so cool because I didn't understand what the fuck is this. I didn't see anybody coming in. It was only me, like players all around, but nobody came in, right? So I just started digging and went into into the little cave, and there was like special mining nodes over there with like rare metals.
Dude,
and
this
stuff.
is so cool. I know that I've tested mining a little bit on beta, so I had to like fly all the way on top of the little mountains in Waking Shores to get the draconic ore. But as you mentioned with the dragon riding, because I had always a controversial opinion about flying. I think flying was never really amazing for the game.
They nailed it. 1000%.
No, I'm not talking about dragon riding, man. I meant flying in general, because when they added it, they had to keep it up, and it felt like it disconnected me from the world. But dragon riding is the exact flying system that keeps me connected. Ground is like, okay, I need to go there. You cannot fly forever, and when you fly, you really fly, and you really take in the zone. I was like, okay, I want to get over there, and to have enough altitude. Oh, I might not get over there. Let me find another peak. Let's go to that peak. Let's drop down again. Like, that type of flying is the flying that keeps me engaged, not only with the actual system, but also the world. And like you said, man, you discover, and we can talk about the customization of the dragon as well, because it's cool. We never had that.
Well, okay, I'm super happy when I get a glyph for like new customization. I'm like all the way back. Check it out.
People ask a lot, is like, are these the only 4 dragons that you're gonna get? It's like, okay, yeah, but they're thematic to the story and to the dragon aspects and to the zones themselves. Plus, the amount of customization you can do outclasses any number of mounts that they would have eventually added that you would have to just get. There's a difference in, having like 10 mounts and having like 10 customizations for 1 mount. Not to mention that you get to choose how it looks with like all sorts of stuff. It's kind of like what they did with the drag theory. Just fiddle with every ear and eye and horn and whatever you want.
And color, and there's customization for it for sure. And I really have a good feeling about this. I feel they're gonna iterate upon this system with dragons and dragon riding moving forward. They haven't confirmed anything yet, but I think the reception for it is so good, and they put so much effort into it. It would be a shame if this would be like a one expansion thing.
Yeah.
Plus, I know they said that they're focusing on implementing systems and expansions that can carry over more and more expansions. Not only talking about the talents, okay? So back to dragon riding. So the experience with dragon riding is like when you fly all over the ground and do quests, you cannot not help but feel, oh, there's a glyph over there. Pff, go get it. Oh, there's a race. Not to be, like when you get the first race quest, like in the zone, because every zone has like this races, right?
The world tour.
The world tour, exactly. So I said, fuck the main stories, fuck the side quests. I'm flying all over the place to do my dragon riding. I'm a bronze champion, a couple of gold over there, but that's not the point. The point is, this expansion right now distracts you in a good way, as it was never done before. No, not even Warlords did not have the distraction element to it. Warlords follow a really cool story and characters and whatnot. I'm not gonna mention BFA or Shadowlands here because the distraction element in a positive manner is almost a work of art. Like you do not feel bad that you stopped in your track to complete a quest or something and do something else, because that something else is so enticing and so interesting, and you discover more and more things. I wanted to add this to the lore bit, because I started the idea, then Dragon Rider came to my mind. But you mentioned Legion. There was also BFA had, Jaina, Sylvanas, Talanji, whatever. Shadowlands had, Blue Nipples, Sylvanas once again. We had in BFA Sarfang as well, with the whole Anduin thing. So These expansions kind of relied on very established and either very hated or very beloved characters from the past. What I've discovered in the Dragon Isles is that apart from like the super known dragon aspects and Rathian and Alexstrasza and everybody, I discovered a lot of new characters from the different zones, even like little kids. Did with the quest with the little Volpero who like tried to save a little whelp? I'm not gonna spoil it.
I think
it sounds so funny. Yeah, she tried to save a little whelp, but she kind of like harmed the little whelp, and then the professor came in. It's like, what the hell are you doing? They're like little pupils. But dude, listen, the little stories and the little characters like all over the place have so much richness to them. Either funny, either like super deep, all things that you could probably relate to some events in your life maybe. That is like unprecedented. This is what I'm saying. The characters in Dragonflight so far are not established like from previous stories or expansions. There's just like a big background of lore, but yet they feel much more interesting than Sylvanas ever was in Shadowlands, for me at least.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Again, I was looking at the what was it called when you did the Black Dragonflight and they the Sabellian, which has a very similar name to my rogue, by the way. Sabellian and Rathian, I was looking at that. And again, guys, the threat that they could not protect the eggs from Alexstrasza, and they wanted to like get the throne back because of the... I'm spoiling, right? I don't want to spoil. That whole threat, that whole thing you were invested to and helping them was... a million times better than any threat the jailer ever had in the whole of Shadowlands.
You felt more engaged, and I think this ties in, and I wanted to give the example of the centaurs without giving the overall
Centaurs
story.
were my favorite.
The centaurs were the first faction, because in when you start in the Waking Shores, they're not really factions, they're just the dragons that you kind of know. But going into the Onaran Plains, you get the Centaur factions, and we never really had. I don't think there was ever a Centaur NPC that you can interact with in the Barrens, because that's where the only other place we would have Centaurs.
I remember.
They were supposed to be the bad guys, but now this is a different race of Centaurs, and that's fine. They have this tendency to introduce new factions with like completely new lore, and it's hard to really get invested in them. And Shadowlands is a good example. BFA did kind of okay, let's say, with the cool Tyrants. You kind of felt a little bit, and even with the Zandalari was okay. But this takes it to the next level because this is really well thought out, and the way that they do it, they take it in a slow pace. And I think you mentioned that you went with the caravan, and that was the point that I was like, okay, I actually like this faction, and the reason I will like this is because okay. You take the caravan quest and you go around like half of the Onaran Plains.
Yeah, and you stop and you hunt some food and
stuff. You can either fly to the end and skip, because if you don't care, you don't care. That's fine. But you can actually hop on the little big doggy dude and actually listen to their stories, and they talk about it. And you listen, and it's like, okay. And it feels like they're people, right? They have like grounded lives. They have like grounded concerns. The belief that they have is kind of like shaken, but they need to survive and hunt and all of that, and it feels like I could actually relate to them because they had like realistic and grounded concerns, as opposed to the overarching spacecraft, I mean Shadowlands stories with the traders and all of that. It was really weird. And BFA as well, like I couldn't really relate to the Zandalari. I couldn't really relate to the Kulturans.
They had their interesting elements to them, right? And I think that there was always the subject of potential with all these past expansions, which I don't think it was ever taken to its full value. The potential was always there, even with Shadowlands, the realm of death and all of that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, on paper, that's huge potential that would be very interesting, but I don't think they delivered on any of those, with maybe some positives with the Zandalari and the Kulturans. However, when we're talking about these new factions, Flame mentioned that they're introducing in Shadowlands, and I haven't even gotten to the Tuskar yet.
Oh,
I know
boy.
you did. And I heard you laugh a lot. So what they did here, I don't know if it was like a laser focused like period of meetings and all of the writers gathered up and they just made it, but it makes so much sense. The experience you have while leveling and while interacting with all of the systems of the expansion, plus the zones, plus the revamped professions, plus everything seems so connected and
Yes.
everything makes sense. It doesn't
That's-
feel that they just put this here.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, and because you talked about the professions as well, and it was weird because I obviously liked professions in an RPG, and I like to craft my own stuff. I got skinning and leatherworking, and like you said that you have the quest.
I know why I got blacksmithing, because I want to make daggers and swords. That's it. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's the cool part about professions, because they kind of sounds like this, the consortium, the whatever artisan consortium, right? That goes along with the quest line, and you level up. The profession system itself is really cool, designed. However grindy it might end up being, we'll see in like a month or so. But until then, it kind of goes into your questing, and it actually feels impactful because the profession gear that you craft is better than the questing gear that you do.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, well, I finally care about what I craft. If I care about what I craft, then I care about what I skin. And if I care about what I skin, I care about where I find it in the zone. So it's connected to the zone. It's connected to the story, like you mentioned, and also the factions. And the overall feeling that I had is in Shadowlands and in BFA, it felt like they put so much time and effort into propping up these systems of external player power that would finalize in the max level with the Azurite and the legendaries and the covenants, that they kind of neglected the faction build up, the questing build up, and all of it into the world. And because I care about the centaurs, and because I care about skinning all the beasts in the northern plains, I care about the wild hunt, which is the mechanic of the centaurs. I care about all the treasures and all of the little quests and side notes and bonus objectives that I want to do, as opposed to, when am I gonna get 70 so I can do some dungeons or raids, right?
This is the main difference. Dragonflight enables you the want to, not you have to. This is very different because the most recent example is Shadowlands, where you felt you had to go through there and do that and talk to that NPC, and it was very, very linear. This is linear progression as well. You go from zone to zone to zone, but guess what? It's so huge and so open. You can always stop to smell the roses and not feel like you're being left out, because there's always something that can take you a little further, regardless if it's the main quest or some other activity. Everything gives you experience in the end, and I would say it's a big loss if you go to Dragonflight like for the first time, going through Dragonflight and not being very interested in all of the little side activities and stories and characters. It's a big loss. But just to wrap it up, I feel like as a initial experience, they have nailed it more than I can remember. The leveling, stories, characters, systems, new talents, dragon riding, they're all top-notch, amazing, and I was a little bit concerned because of all the bugs that were in the alpha and beta, but I didn't see any. Apart from, I guess, like a big criticism was the launch, for me at least. I stayed up and tried to log in Europe. It didn't work for like 40 minutes. I know a lot of people from the guild actually got in eventually, but that was a little bit unacceptable after all these years, after all the experiences from the past. That was unacceptable, and I got pissed and I went to bed. So, but that was like the other day I could log in, the next day I could log in, and it was fine.
It was very smooth, actually. I logged in, 7 hours, I think it was a release when we started the stream.
Yeah.
And I had 0 login issues. Maybe I've been one of the happier cases. Maybe I've been a little bit lucky, but that means that the servers were decently stable for a bunch of people that can actually play. And I guess, launch is probably gonna always be...
But before getting a conclusion to all of this, because again, guys, this is like the very early first impressions for the first couple of days of Dragonflight, and we are comparing to the first couple of days of Shadowlands that we did and BFA, and to be honest, there really isn't no comparison. There's none. There's no competition.
Do you want a dose of contrast right now? Right now, you would have been in Torghast.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine the maw and all of that. No. It's great. Now, this is not to say that the expansion will turn out 2 years from now as great as we have it right now. We have to remember there's always this honeymoon when an expansion launches at the start.
Yeah.
So we're very excited to play it right now. We don't know how things will evolve in Season 1. Although we kind of know, because it's basically, you do M+, you do the raid, you get tier sets. You know, you craft gear, you get creation catalyst, inspiration catalyst. Actually,
I think a better impression what we'll have is once everything is settled in, once we actually get to play with the systems, once we actually get a feel of the grind, once we actually get a feel of the end game content. Because people say, well, if I don't have anything to grind, what am I going to do at max level? Well, I guess this is what we'll see, because there are a lot of intricate things that we can do, a lot more meaningful activities that are not very obvious, that, you know, there's not an obvious, okay, grind Torghast to get your legendary type of activity. It's like, you know, do the great hunt with the centaurs, cook for the Tuskars, and so on. So we don't know exactly how it's going to be, and they've surprised us so much with everything so far. Who knows what, you know, 10.1 will bring.
Yeah, the feeling is I cannot wait to log in again and continue on my adventures. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to...
We haven't had this. I haven't had this since vanilla. I can honestly say I've loved the other expansions, but I haven't had these feelings of I just want to go in and quest and explore the world and do dungeons and all of that. But I haven't had this feeling in 17 years.
Yeah. Well, that's about it. Call us shields if you want to, but we have to praise them when they do the good job, and they did the good job here. And I hope they carry on this flag moving forward for the next couple of years to come. What do you think? I mean, surely you have an opinion. Surely if you play Dragonflight, or do you share the same experiences and hype as we do, or were you let down? Let us know in the comments. It's always nice to talk to you guys about these types of things. Thank you to the Patrons for supporting the content. We love you guys. Check the link in the description for the Patreon link, patreon.com/Marcelian online, and we shall see you
in the next one.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classical retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still,